Hello, welcome to the Buddha of the Basin, Friday. Epstein, extraterrestrials, and extra-dimensional energy. Chi as the hot sauce on the burrito, baby. Buddha of the Basin here, Karen Crow, Louisiana. Epstein, Mossad, CIA, MI6. That ain't where it's at, buddy. All those things might be true, but that ain't the point if you worked for Israel, like Robert Maxwell or Ghislaine Maxwell. Is he still alive? Yeah, most likely they snuck his butt out. They reported he was dead a day before he was actually dead, just like they reported Building 7 blew up and imploded and was demolished in a controlled way. It was announced on the BBC prior to the event actually taking place. The event that defies all known laws of physics. But let me just get back to hum. Get that vagus nerve to calm down. You see, the cortisol, where people usually report they feel it, back of the neck near the atlas vertebra. Bruh. Holding up, trying to connect your pineal to your thyroid, in essence, get that spinal tube of light for the cerebral spinal fluid to pass up. Then you tuck the chin down a little bit, bring the navel into the backbone, spine, back body, and then slightly tuck the tailbone in, and you got the three yoga bandhas. I couldn't. One at the bottom was called the Mula Bandha, but for the life of me, I don't know the names of the other two. But Google Gemini will tell you it's true. So Epstein, it was more about shape-shifting reptilians. That's where you have to go to get the energy to flow, because that's where the mind has been stifled and vexed and annexed over to the unconsciousness land. And we don't want to. We want to bring it back out of the unconscious land. We want, as in Tori Amos Cornflake Girl, things are kind of getting crazy, and I go sleepy time. This is not really happening. You bet your life it is. When traumatic things happen, you try to Neptune, that energy wants to help wash it away, put it into the unconscious. It's the imagination. It's just science fiction. It's just fantasy, baby. It's fantasy. No, sacrifice to Baal Moloch in the Old Testament was not fantasy. Hot dogs do not mean hot dogs. Pizza does not mean pizza. And philia implies a love. Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love. So it's calling them PDF files, philae. There's no love there. But that interdimensional, extra-dimensional energy is chi. And when you emotionally get somebody charged up, you build up their chi. Now, what are you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to ground the chi. You ground that electrical energy back. The energy wants to be grounded. It needs grounding into the earth. Or you're in an erratic, top-heavy thermodynamic mess, ready to crash out because you're in a state of entropy because you're in a high beta brainwave. You're not breathing right, baby. You're not breathing from your diaphragm. You gotta sit back and relax the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, why? The vagus nerve is the one and only of the 12 cranial nerves that actually goes back down to your abdomen. So when you go hum, you're releasing nitric oxide from the parasinus. It goes into the sinus. That calms you down. Because from there, from the parasinus and the sinus, it goes to the brain. Hum. So. And the so, that's the other half of the spinal tube. That's down there by the perineum. The chode, we used to call it. They hit me in my chode. But that's where you have to tighten those abductor muscles ever so slightly, which are your inner thigh muscles. Then you have to kind of engage the pelvic floor and slightly lift the tailbone, because you're not really after the tailbone, you're after the sacrum, the 5 bones that have been superimposed, by the Anunnaki to give you the upright spine. That's where you want. That's where your light can begin to shine. That's the sacral chakra point, the Dantian, the Yesod in the Kabbalah, Dantian, Qigong, where you would chant Vam, to build up the H plus ions. Hydrogen, it's all hydrogen. The universe is over 70% hydrogen. Your body is a good 10%. Most of that's water, but it's hydrogen, obviously. Hydrogen is just free flowing through your body, through your cells, essentially. It's there, and it's there in the cells, trying to help you make the ATP synthase. It's the fuel, and the protons, when you get warm, and that current of warm energy goes up the back body, along with the cerebral spinal fluid. Oh yeah, it's the top of the head. It nourishes you. It warms you up, because pain and pleasure are directly coupled to temperature, as in heat is pleasurable, cold is painful. Cold implies constriction. So you never want to cut off your flow to this energy, but you want to be grounded to it. So you're giving it back to the earth. You're recycling your unfresh ions and getting the fresh ions, the fresh electrons from the earth. And then you ionize them with your living consciousness field, your biofield. You put bioplasma out there into your field. And that's what the elite were doing. They want the bioplasma of fear. They want the external biophotonic, bioplasmic output of the raw emotional energy to feel that pure power, not just as adrenochrome, but yeah, as what helps them, makes them feel like a god. What gets for them it's all about the third ventricle of the brain, where the pineal, pituitary, hypothalamus, and thalamus all reside in the oily residue, right? The Mashiach, the Messiah, right, is the one anointed with the alligator's oil. It's the oil, the chrism, the sacred chrism. But the Qigong practice, it's the same thing as the microcosmic orbit of Qi. That goes back to Dan Tien. The macrocosmic brings it down to your foot, the kidney 1 point, the bottom of your feet. And you bring it back up to the perineum, then to the back body, up the back body of the front, up the back body of the back. That's why you sort of tuck the navel back into the back and lift the tailbone, then tuck in the chin so you bring your head down, and then it kind of goes up the back and then down the front. That's the circle figure eight of the Qi. That's what it's supposed to do. Then macrocosmically, it can go down the left leg and reground into the earth. And so you are completing a circuit that basically began with the center of the galaxy. And when you think of it like that, whether you believe in God or not, it's a meditative spiritual act. You're connecting with the living, conscious, light, love energy of source that causes things to evolve into first density conscious awareness, which is like fire, earth, air, and water, and then after billions of years into second density awareness, which is plants. Throw another 100, 500 million years, and you get the first third density self-conscious life form, which on this planet is us. But the next step is the fourth density of choosing love. And the elites and the evil, if you will, the Epstein class, have chosen a path that has a lack of love. And so it's a false path. It can only work by fully charging up the sacral and solar plexus chakras, taking all your energy from others and using it as your power to feel like a god, but keeping the heart chakra closed and the throat chakra closed. You have no commitment to honesty and self-expression. That's not what your goal is, not to self-express, unless you're expressing yourself as a god, but you have to feed off others to keep that going. Whereas, the true path uses the heart as the very center, the very core, because the heart is what produces the electromagnetic field in the first place. And then there is what's known as the high heart. That's the core star, according to Barbara Brennan. It's at a higher level of consciousness. It would be fifth density, which is the level of wisdom or light-based consciousness. Whereas the fourth density is actually combination of light and love. This is from the raw material. It sounds ludicrous to say the universe is made out of light and love, but dark energy and dark matter comprise the majority of the universe, and it's just dark to our consciousness. Or you can argue it's still unformed light and love. It hasn't been the logos has not given it form by projecting consciousness. That because everything's like water in a sense. You can project it, and then you can sort of steer your conscious intent and meld your conscious intent with the consciousness of the water. which sounds silly, but we're made out of water. We're, 80% water approximately, and water can be used to teleport DNA. It just needs a 7 hertz hertz cycle signal. This is what Dr. Luc Montagnier discovered before he died: the hidden messages in water, and it's been discredited. I mean, just like Masaru Emoto's science about water, the perfect crystallization patterns in water when it's exposed to love and harmony, it just resonates and creates crystallization. Love is a crystallizing force. Light love produces matter when given just it just takes the human consciousness, the fifth element, if you will, which is consciousness. You have the fire, the hydrogen, you have the earth, which is the carbon, then you have the air, which is mostly nitrogen, then you have the water, which is, I mean, it's hydrogen, but the part that gives it the fuel for us is the oxygen. So those four basic elements, then you add the iron in our body, which gives us electromagnetic properties, which ultimately leads us to consciousness. Moments of conscious awareness come from the ferritin, which is a iron connecting, iron absorbing, iron containing protein, and these ferritin seals are what we call the chakras. The chakras are cylindrical vortices coming out into the fourth density energy body, the light body, the rainbow body, and they contain a biophotonic light produced by your own cells, the cells of the heart, and because there are neurons around the heart, there are neurons in the stomach, and of course the head. It's the conscious biophotonic light from the cytoplasm and the cytosol of the cells, because it's the microtubules within the cytosol, cytoplasm, that are actually carrying consciousness as like a quantum signal, along with the dendrites, which are the tiny little arborizations connecting the bodies of the neuron. Um, we think of the axon. The axon is the final pulse, but the dendrites activate and create arborization patterns, and they become quantum entangled, just as microtubules become quantum entangled. The spin states of the electrons are equilibrated in the spin states of the ferritin seals, because another word for the ferritin seals in the brain would be magnetite. Magnetite's been discovered in the brain as well. We know magnetite helps these animals navigate because it connects us to the electromagnetic field, thereby helping. It's a natural GPS. It also helps you with the grounding process, because it's helping your body find your electromagnetic field, which is the crown of the head and the sole of the feet. The 7 and 1 points, if you will. The seventh, or the kether, the highest point from which the light descends right down your tube of light, or the sushumna, and you let that pass right through you. Once you find the alignment of the crown, if you will, and the chin, the tailbone, that's your middle pillar, the pillar of light. And then you have to kind of wait for it to go all the way down to the earth center. And it's kind of difficult to wait, because you're like, well, nothing's happening. But that's because you haven't fully connected yet to the center of the earth. Because the earth is a conscious living entity, and you came here to connect with it, and you're supposed to be helping it. And the earth is looking to awaken people. She's not God per se. What we think of as God does not actually exist. I mean, God is a living holographic conscious energy field that's basically throughout infinity, so you can call it intelligent infinity. But God subdivides the act of creation and creators into many various creators, logwa, or logos, the plural of logos, which are words, and what's been spoken already can be added to as they create various consciousness experiments. And the planet Earth is a later consciousness experiment. Our sun is our local logos, and the Council of Saturn approved the being known as Yahweh of the Elohim to take us from, after we had died on Mars, after Mars had failed. They're trying to reboot Mars as we speak, of course, to jumpstart Mars' evolution again. But the human experience and experiment on Mars failed, in a sense. and having nowhere else to go, and needing some support, the entity known as Yahweh, the Elohim, whom I also suggest is Enki or Ea of the Sumerian pantheon, takes us, if you will, and helps to make us in the image of the Anunnaki beings, and finds it to be a suitable idea that they can help us, and then we can help them. Because of course the Anunnaki story is more that we were made to do work. We were made to help them go into the mines. They were looking for the gold in Africa, and Earth was shortening their lives, their tremendously long lives, and they needed a good worker. We've always valued the gold. It's just in our DNA to see gold, to know the value of gold, because that's what we were in part made to do. It's a story that's more true than the story in the Bible, because the reason that we were kicked out or cast out or things were made difficult for us was because you had two different brothers, Enlil and Enki. If you read the Sumerian mythology, they were fighting over us. Enki wanted to empower us and give us knowledge, so he becomes the serpent in the garden. He becomes the bad guy for trying to give us knowledge. Enlil casts himself in the role of the good guy because he has a higher rank than Enki, a 50 over 40 rank. They're both sons of Anu. It's more complicated. Enlil is the one who becomes the higher rank. Enki is the one who actually fashions us, who helps to make us, along with Nin Harsig or Damkina, his wife. The Anunnaki literature is like we were genetically engineered. Somebody had to fuse chromosomes. I think it's 1 and 2, either 2 and 3. We have fused chromosomes that wouldn't have happened in an evolutionary time period. It happened much faster. It couldn't happen in the evolutionary time period. We have the sacrum, and we have our speech. We were just made to walk upright in a much quicker evolution. Now you can argue that a different group of beings came before this Anunnaki group approximately 400,000 years ago, and that could be true. But however you slice it, it's extraterrestrials, and it's our energy from that DNA that emanates around in our field. And some people just got addicted to us viewing them as gods and the energy we would give them. I mean, look at your Old Testament. How many thousands, tens of thousands of animals was this entity Yahweh requiring? I mean, that wasn't a god. That was a member of the Anunnaki class. But as David Icke uncovered, half the Anunnaki, the half derived from Enlil, the evil half, have half reptilian genetics, because the mother was from the Draco-reptilian. She was the Draco-reptilian queen named Tia. You get that Tiamat story. The dragon Tiamat, Tia. Tia still goes back to queen. It's not the true queen. The true queen over here would be more like Kim, because Ki is the real word for the earth. Kim, because the Anakim, for those who from heaven to earth came, the Anunnaki, Ki being the earth. Anki, they separate the fresh water from the salt water. They clearly were trying to settle here. Something had happened in the Sirius B system. They had a minor catastrophe of sorts. Seems like there was fighting on Mars. We might have gone to Mars as well. There was some fighting. There was another planet got destroyed and became the asteroid belt. There's been just a lot of fighting, and right now there's a lot of different races and consciousness groups, social memory complexes, what the Law of One calls them, here on the Earth. Earth is a school, and it's a lot of other failed experiments. Groups that didn't graduate have come to Earth in this cycle. Each cycle is about 75,000 years. So that's about how long the good guys have tried these past 75,000 years to really, that was Atlantis, Lemuria around 75. So that's where Lemuria begins this little cycle. The beings are living 900 years as the Bible suggests, but we're not really getting wiser. So our logos, if you will, they decide to shorten our lifespan, as the Bible says, to make our lives more difficult. So the tricky bit about the Law of One is that you have a logos being, which is sort of the sun, our local sun, And you have a council of Saturn that kind of governs things in the local solar system. Then you have other groups that come as a confederation, as in Star Trek. Uh, they 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 seed life here, but then they kind of leave. Some try to come back later. That's partly the Anunnaki, but you have the Dogon beings. You have Dagon, who's sort of a scurvy manfish. The Dogon are described as half fish-like beings, but they give the Dogon people a lesson in anatomy, physiology. They talk about the Sirius B star system. They really educate the people. You see the you have the flower of life. You have the pyramids. You see the beings that are in the Old Testament guy in. It's just a very tricky. There was clearly a lot of groups that were trying to do good here on the planet. It unfortunately seems like this Anunnaki group, part of them, were basically wanted Earth for themselves, wanted the Earth for themselves, didn't want to share it, and they created a catastrophe that ended Atlantis. And that was the Great Flood at the same time. If you don't want to bring Atlantis in, the better understanding of the Great Flood would come from the Atrahasis story, the Sumerian myth, because Atrahasis is Noah, and it's Enki is told he cannot warn or help Atrahasis directly. So he speaks to him through a reed wall, much like he speaks to Moses through a burning bush. Because he's been told by Enlil, you cannot help the humans, you can't talk to them directly, you can't warn them. We're gonna kill them all. And again, the Bible tells you that that's the good guy who wants to kill all the humans. It's amazing. The Atrahasis, Enlil uses famine, uses plague, and finally the flood. And it's like all these things are still happening. They're still using famine and plague and flood and war and dividing us. It's the end of that age, though. Saturn and Neptune are both in 0 degrees Aries, and we're waking up. So I'm just exactly telling it like it is, as the Buddha of the Basin. You've been here before, but this is it. This is graduation time. That leap test is coming. You're going to make the leap to fourth density. Okay? That's the reality. We're making the leap. 51% service to others, just more selfless, more giving in nature. You're radiating positive energy. You're not keeping it to yourself, but you're grounded in the earth. So you're not putting out too much of the beta brainwave. You're trying to lock into that alpha, 8 hertz cycles per second. And as you relax and kind of let go in the sacral region, allow yourself to kind of orbit down there with your H plus ions in the sort of mini orbits of the sacral chakra complex down there in the abdomen and the navel. That's that's the cup, if you will, the lower clockwise going tetrahedron. Most people don't realize, they confuse. They think the clockwise right turning tetrahedron is the upper tetrahedron. That's not it. The clockwise right tetrahedron is the lower earth or female tetrahedron. And you can hang there as long as you want, just recharging the energy body. That's the lunar vibe, if you will, because it liberates you and slowly brings you back to the left eye, which is the right hemisphere. And from there, you can marinate and let Brodmann's area 22 work on the symbolic connections and connect everything. Meanwhile, you're connecting the different parts of your body. You see, it's all meant to be metaphoric and holographic. That's the only way to gain true understanding, is to have it all mapped and stacked. That's a right hemispheric act. So the Epstein class goes back to Enlil from the Anunnaki, okay, who is half reptilian, and they get off on the adrenalized blood of sacrificed, terrified victims. That could be animals quickly slaughtered, humans slaughtered. So they would demand, right, in the Old Testament, they would demand of Saul, kill them all, kill the children, kill the women, kill the animals. And we haven't had the eyes to see that. They all the bioplasma, all that chi, all that living conscious vibration of energy essence would be God, it's a drug beyond belief, a buffet. It's a bloodbath of enormous, a blood a blood buffet, a pizza party, a hot dog fest. That's been sin and conquest on this planet, to use people as food and fuel for your fire. That's what's leaving. as Neptune is helping us dissolve the boundaries of religion and taboo lines you couldn't cross. No, Saturn's right there with Neptune at 0 degrees Aries saying, yes, it is now lawful to speak out against Enlil because Yahweh of the Elohim is a composite character. In one sense, he's inky. Sometimes he's inky. But after Moses and Aaron and the golden calf, and he smashes the first seal, first set of seals, or the first set of tablets, whatever you want to say, when he goes back and he meets the second guy, comes down with the 10 commandments, that's not the good figure Yahweh anymore. That's the power one. When humanity decides we want power, the evil beings of conquest and power, they help us, but only if we serve them in a ruthless fashion and kill them all. Remember, there's no heart. It's completely heartless. It's a merciless form of energy. It's conquest and domination. And you may get off on it, but it's very short lived, and you would not want to be on the other side of it. And that's our country right now, the United States. It's the whole world that we haven't seen this for what it is, holographically, metaphorically projected and out there, respected by all peoples. We can just see it for what it is. Epstein's class, the billionaire class, relates back to the Sumerian high priest of Enlil, who, like I said, were half reptilian. Okay, so having no RH negative factor, having the Anunnaki blood, if you will, it doesn't necessarily mean you're evil, because there was Anki or Ea, the good guys, and they actually, the giants were the sons of the Elohim, the Bene Elohim, the Genesis 6 giants. Some of them might have turned evil, but they were meant to be a good thing. They were trying to uplift us physically and spiritually, mentally, all at the same time. That's why Enlil, after he gets the Israelites, he makes them go after these Anakim giants. Okay? Anaheim, yes, the Anaheim Angels. Anaheim is the same name as Anakim. These Anunnaki, Genesis 6 giants. And they were found in the Grand Canyon. They've been found in caves in Nevada, South America. I mean, giants and elongated skull beings. Okay? The planet really it's ours now. The harvest is now. The time that Jesus referred to when the chaff and the wheat would be separated, that's what's happening now. We're in now. So it no longer matters really truly about religion or reincarnation or political philosophy. It's just energetically, are those chakras pouring out a nice, even, harmonious vibration between your bioplasma, a living plasma field. Remember, plasma is the fourth state of matter. And then in this fourth state of matter, you can have electrons and positrons, believe it or not, sort of coexisting, commingling, and then annihilating each other to create light and gamma rays. Because that's what happens. The positron annihilates with the electron and creates light and gamma ray burst. They can sometimes from an element called positronium, though, I think the positron orbits the electron. It's amazing. It doesn't exist very long. But within the energy field, I think these things are actually happening. Science can't confirm it. But we've now confirmed the quantum level effects, the quantum entanglement in let's just say it's all there waiting to be confirmed. And that's what this new golden age is about. It's not about Trump. That's the end. He's the last of the old age. That's the last idea of the archetypal ego male running everything. That whole era is over. So it's a beautiful mystery. It's a beautiful metaphor. It's sad that so much suffering has been poured into this cup, so much misery in this cup. But we all have to drink this cup like Jesus. This is the lesson of the school of the planet Earth. We're here to graduate. The Epstein extra-dimensional energy class. Once we're aware of extra dimensions and extra-dimensional energy flowing freely, we can share it within each other and empower ourselves through telepathic means. And believe it or not, sexual energy, spiritual, you can transfer energy without sexual means, but spiritual energy can be transferred and shared. We can empower each other from our own group dynamics. With the internet serving as now a metaphor for how we all interconnect just with our DNA and with the water. The water also has a fourth phase, the EZ, exclusionary zone water, that Dr. Gerald Pollack developed. He didn't develop, he discovered it. But Dr. Esther Del Rio discovered the Faraday seals where the chakra points are in the back. The whole energy body is waiting to be discovered. The electromagnetism there in the brain and the magnetite, the sort of role of magnetite, ferritin, iron in conscious experience, and through electromagnetism, the electromagnetic force, and tiny nano bioholograms, how the cells in the brain actually communicate with each other. It's all waiting to be found. But we have to go through all this darkness first to get to the light. We have to find out what and who was keeping us in the darkness and what they were doing to us while we were in the dark. And then our hearts will finally awaken on this planet. Because that's the sadness that's broken all of our hearts. And most of us haven't even been consciously aware of why our hearts have been so broken. Because the fact of our own family dynamics and our family history does not explain the sheer crushing heartbreak of this world. And we project it onto each other as if it's somebody in our family or friend circle that did this to us, or our job. But no, it's the energy dynamic of the planet. It's a tragic mystery of this fallen Babylon. And that's the last bit, because Babylon does not go back to Nebuchadnezzar. This fall of Babylon goes back to the son of Enki, okay, who calls himself Marduk. And in the Babylonian cosmology, he replaces Enki and Enlil, and he defeats Tiamat. It's so important. That's your Lucifer figure, because whether you like Enlil or not, he was obviously there before Marduk. Enki's the good guy, but he takes them both out. Sorry, Dad. So he rebels. He built. If anybody builds the tower, you can argue he has it built. It's unclear. But what does seem to happen is there's nuclear war as they try to defeat him, as the Anunnaki, essentially of Enlil, go to war with Marduk and break his father's heart, if you will, much like David's sons rebelled against him. So that story seems to be there. From that's the Babylon where we proclaim ourselves to be God above all. And that's what America's become. We proclaim ourselves to be God above all. And the Jews, the Zionists, if you will, sorry. I don't mean the Jews like all Jews, of course not. I mean the Zionists, I mean the Sabbatean Frankists, I mean those who claim they are Jews, but they are actually not. Right? The synagogue of Satan. And the whole world can simply unite. The Hindus, the Buddhists, we all love Jesus. The Muslims, most people, it's been kept from you that Hindus, Buddhists, and Muslims all love Jesus, but they do, and we may as well love Buddha and Muhammad too. Until then, may all our dreams come true. Om Shanti Om.